I'm Pranjal Jaiswal from Startup Lanes, and we are really grateful to have you here, sir. I will first request you to introduce yourself, sir.
Thank you, Pranjal. So I am a chartered accountant and a Harvard alum. Have been a banker for almost 20 years. And I started my investing journey in startups a little late. I started as angel investor in 2016. From there till now, I would have around 80 investments in the space across sectors. I'm completely sector agnostic, but yes, I have a thesis which we can discuss later. And I run Trica. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Trica. Trica is a growth stage platform for accessing deals in the startup space. So we do Series A plus to all the way up to pre-IPO. And we also have a SaaS solution for all startups where we look at ESOP management and capital management for now. And we are adding a lot of functionalities that you will see being launched soon.
Wonderful, sir. So my first question for you is, what is your investing philosophy?
So I think over the years, I think I've learned that the philosophy is largely that, which is typical standard one, is that it should be a large enough problem to be solved. The idea is to make sense. As I said, I'm completely sector agnostic. I look at ideas which have potential to give 100x. Right? So that is my first threshold which I look at. And of course, it then boils down to since it's an early stage investment, ultimately you're betting on the founders. Ideas can be brilliant, but you will find founders who cannot execute, right? So my focus is on the founders, their execution ability and capability. It's all about their attitude and aptitude on how they will grow and what will they do. So I look what are the passion they bring to the table, the energy they bring. And of course, you want to know the thought process behind what they are building and how they will build it up.
Very nice, sir. So what has been the most important investing lesson you have learned so far?
So having invested in the ecosystem for quite a while, as I said, founder is the most important, right? The agility of the founder, the ability of the founder to pivot. And I have seen examples also. In fact, I have seen in my own portfolio, when the founders think way too much about themselves and what they are building, right? That's when they fail. And I've got a few of the companies which had brilliant product, brilliant ideas, but somewhere the human ego of the person came in the way and they failed. Right. And that's why I think the key for any founder, however big they become, will always remain to be humble. Right? Humility is the key, and execution is the key.
Very nice, sir. So what has been your best investment to date?
So you cannot ask me to choose between which is my favorite son or daughter, right? So I'm with all my investments. Yes, there have been some which have performed much better in terms of valuation than others. But I think valuation is just a number, right? So I think I love each and every founder that I work with. I enjoy talking to them. I'm very happy with what everybody is building. So I would not single out anybody and say this one is my favorite.
So you can share some of them, maybe if you want.
I think I'll stay away from that. So I have seen my investment ranges across. So my portfolio ranges across your standard edtech, fintechs, and all of that. Even space tech, to even beauty companies. So every company has a very nuanced way of growth and path of success. Right? So some get it early, some get it a little late. So that's why I don't want to call out favorites.
So can you share some of your investing mistakes and the lessons you can learn from them?
So I think the founders are the most important when you're investing at an early stage, right? So I think one of the mistakes can be when there were multiple co-founders. I only spoke to one founder and invested, right? And then later on I came to know that the founders have fought. So the company is dying, in spite of them being a very large scalable idea, in spite of them being in the right space, right? The fault was that it was the founders could not stay together, right? And they broke like a jar, and how much ever you try to bring them together, it doesn't happen. Second was to back founders who thought too much of themselves, and they were not open to optionality when they came, and the companies went under. Third is the founders have so much passion, right? They are not able to cut their loss. Okay, so what I mean by that is that you have started something with so much passion, and you are looking at it with one view, but ultimately somewhere down the line you know that you are not able to scale it, right? And that's where you have to cut your loss, either sell the company or get a strategic or do something else or pivot into something else. They are not able to accept it, and when that doesn't happen, the company goes down under, right? Just a matter of time. I think these are some of the mistakes which I see that I would have also done in the past in not getting in along with the right founders.
Very nice. So my next question is like, is there any particular investor or author who had made a significant influence on your investment perspective?
So I think to this again, my answer will be a little wide. There will be no specific person, right? But one of the things that you learn, and I've learned along my life, is that every person is a shade of gray. So when it comes to the style of investment, person is a shade of gray. Focus on the whites, focus on the learnings that you get from the person, and try to build it into what you are building, right? So I think there will be a lot of people who have come along the way, would have picked up the goods, would have ignored the grays, and that's how I move on.
Wonderful, sir. So what would be your advice to entrepreneurs seeking funds?
So I think that is the most important thing that any investor looks at. And the most important thing is to get a right core team first. See, idea anybody gets, right? But the team is what will execute it at scale. So, right, get the right team, right? Second is focus on execution plan and your strategy, right? Build a sustainable, scalable business, right? So that is very important, right? Because those two words are very important. Don't look for shortcuts, right? And in the early stages, valuation is okay. Your valuation kicker is much more material after Series B. So focus on getting the right minds of people, right? Getting the people who will bring in much more than just money, and just focus on execution.
So my next question is like, you already told about this, but still, so do you invest in specific sectors? If yes, then which are they?
So I'm completely sector agnostic, but there are a couple of them where I don't invest. Two businesses, actually three businesses specifically. One is any business which is in food and beverage business, because any product that is created will be very niche, and scale is very difficult when there is a niche product, and entire product USP is in marketing and distribution, for which you need very deep pockets. So it's very difficult for founders to execute that. Second is I don't invest in fintech lending companies, right? Because lending per se, unless, although I have one or two, but as a thesis I don't do, is because lending is not only about lending, it is about risk and recovery, and which none of the startups focus. Third is I don't invest in asset heavy businesses, right? So if any business requires high capex, I like asset light businesses which are completely digital driven. I don't invest in any asset heavy businesses.
Very nice, sir. So what are your views about the startup ecosystem in India?
No, I think this is just the beginning, right? We are at 80 unicorns today, right? But if I were to look at the ecosystem, we are number 3 in the world, right? US and China are number 1 in terms of total ecosystem, and we are number 3. But in terms of unicorns, we are just 7-8%, right? So that is too low a number. Second is, I think, whatever statistics we see across the system, take all the large companies also, we have touched around 140, 150 million customers. There is only 10% of the population, right? So I think as we go ahead, the models will evolve and you will see that we'll cover much larger part of the population, including Bharat, right? So you're seeing a lot of Bharat focused initiatives, including the larger players will focus on Bharat. So I think that is where I think the journey I see, it has just begun. The next 10 years to my mind will belong to the private markets. The maximum amount of wealth creation will happen in that space.
Very nice, sir. So according to you, what is more important? Team, idea, traction, etc.
So team is the most important thing at an early stage, right? Because as I already mentioned, idea anybody can get, but it's all about execution. And execution comes through traction, of course. So team and execution are foremost. And then the next would be your ideas and problem solving, and the scalability.
Yes. So what, according to you, is the perfect time for a for a startup to raise funds, sir? Concept, very early stage or growth stage?
So there again, there is no such time, right? It is when do you need the money at the right time, right? And that's why I said it's okay not to focus on valuation when you're doing this at a early stage, right? You should look at it's completely agnostic. Up to Series A, valuation doesn't matter, right? You raise money when you need it, right? You have to do what is right for business. So if you think at seed stage also you need money, raise money. If you want to raise money at a little later, you can bootstrap and continue, do that, but do what is right for business, right? That is what I would recommend.
So what is the value addition that a founder gets along with your investments?
So I think it's a mix thing. So at many places I may be a board observer, right, where they consult me on a regular basis on what the happening on the company is, what their thinking is. And I basically, coming from a strategy and finance background, I think I understand numbers better, strategy better. So I think I work with a lot of them. Many of them look up to me as mentors on guidance, on fundraise advice. So it's a mix of all of them. But I do give time to them on the weekends, and I do have a word with each of them.
So is there anyone you would like to thank for supporting you in investments?
I think first and foremost, all the founders, right? I think they have been brilliant. All the founders where I invested, where I didn't invest also, because it brings a lot of learning, and I learned a lot from this ecosystem, right? So I think it's all the founders.
Very nice. So what is your feedback on startup growth?
So I think I'm very happy with what you're doing. I've just come across you guys very recently after I saw some of the posts. I think it is something that is required in the ecosystem. Anyways, on the early stage side, we've been doing for years. There are quite a few established players in India. So hopefully, let's see one more player coming in, how it goes.
So my next question is, what are the first 3 slides that you look in a pitch deck?
So I think that has already been answered. Team, right? The problem they are solving, and the execution plan. So it's basically a team, problem, and idea in that order.
So how would you define a startup?
So I would say a startup is an idea, right, to solve a problem at scale with vision, strategy, and execution, right? With an exponential level of passion and energy.
Very nice, sir. So my last question for you is, sir, what are the attributes of an entrepreneur?
I think some of them already mentioned: the energy, the passion, the attitude, and the aptitude. And the most important one that I would put here is always ready to learn and humbleness.
with this, like, we come to the end of the interview. Thank you so much, sir. It was like great to have you here, and it indeed was a fruitful session.
Nice speaking to you, Pranjal.
So,
Thank you so
thank you,
much
sir.
for this opportunity.